exposure of your basketball program and your athletic program. North Carolina declined to bid in the NIT, but I'm sure any SWAC team that gets an invite will probably go, and they should go, just like we've been 2 years in a row. So there's a lot of work to do. There's a lot of conceptual things and attitudes that have to be changed. It's not going to happen overnight. I'm frustrated, just like a lot of SWAC fans are frustrated. I like to see us a 14 seed or 13 seed. There's a chance because we've seen those upsets only twice. Has a 16 seed beat a 1 seed, and one of those happened last night. The team that beat Texas Southern turned around and beat the number 1 seed Purdue in Big Ten country. So I mean, I would like to see a better situation for the SWAC, but do I see it happening anytime soon? I don't. I mean, we're gonna have this conversation every year come March. I get it. It's a tough conversation to have, needs to be had, and so we'll just see where it goes from here. But I just hate that our seasons have come to an end, whether it's NIT, WNIT, or NCAA.
Well, I'm not going to have that conversation next year because once again, we see what's the blueprint has been laid out there. It goes back specifically what the director of athletics are going to do, or the university is going to change their scheduling philosophies. I understand that they have a boss. I'm sure that they can present it to their superiors what needs to be done. But if it doesn't, then it's no need. And I understand the fans are wondering. They're the ones who are clamoring about what we're not doing. But once again, the blueprint is there. Let's just do it. Let's just do it. Make the adjustments. And the director of athletics, I know they tell the individual basketball coaches we need to bring X amount of dollars into the program. Well, again, you're going to have to adjust or simply stay the way it is. No growth. One bid league. You're still going to have your tournament champions represent the conference. Regular season champions, they'll continue to go to the secondary tournaments. And that's just the way it is, Charles. I mean, we could keep talking about it, banging our heads on the wall, unless you get some help doing it. Unless they change the way their philosophy, that's it. That's it. I mean, my opinions over the years have been the regular season champion, represent a one bid league. That's not going to happen. So, you move on. You really do. But once again, congratulations to Texas Southern. What is it? 9 championships in the last 11 years. Mike Davis, uh, Coach Johnny Jones, they get it done. What did they do? Got off to a slow start, correct? Injuries, they had adversity. They overcame those adversity. We talk about that. There's trials and tribulations during a basketball season, a conference season. Hats off to them. They were able to get it done. Now, Southern University women's basketball team defeated the University of Arkansas Pine Bluff. And I think the conversation is watch out for UAPB in the future. They're up and coming. And boy, it was a tough game, back and forth, back and forth. But Southern University get it done. And then many said the championship game was defeating Jackson State on the last second shot. Last week we talked about mentally how would this Southern basketball team be? Well, we saw it. They were focused. They were able to get it done to defeat University of Arkansas Pine Bluff. Let's see. 62-53, the final score. Southern women over University of Arkansas Pine Bluff. And hats off to UAPB. Look, they grind all season, and it is a grind. They were able to get it done. Texas Southern, of course, defeated. Well, I lost my notes there, Charles. Texas. I'm getting a brain freeze. Texas Southern defeated who?
Grambling.
That's what I thought. They defeated Grambling State, but congratulations to Texas Southern. Now, postseason play: Alcorn, North Texas State. At halftime, Alcorn in NIT down by 4 points, 30-26. They were outscored by 12 points in the second half. They drop a 69-53 decision to Alcorn State. Good season, cold regular season champs, NIT for the second year in a row. I think Coach Bussey has done an outstanding job in a 3-year period. What is his mindset, Charles, going into now an off season where it's a continuous grind? I know he's already looking ahead to next season.
Yeah, he is. I will say this. I think for Landon Bussey, this is his third year, 3 straight years in the tournament. We've lost to Texas Southern, and congratulations, Texas Southern, by the way. And you talk about a standard as far as SWAC basketball is concerned. I mean, Texas Southern, if you go all the way back, Bob Moreland Court, they won championships. Ronnie Courtney, remember Ronnie Courtney? He was the head coach at Texas Southern, was one of the most
Hmm.
successful high school basketball coaches in the state of Texas. He won a SWAC title. Then you have Mike Davis carried that baton. And now Johnny Jones has carried that baton. A team that started 0-5 in conference. I thought they were dead in the water. And they barely got in at 7-11. But then they played their best basketball in the postseason. PJ Henry was out early in the year. They got healthy and they got it done. And of course, beating Alcorn and eliminating Alcorn 3 years in a row in the tournament. We lost some key pieces, Carlos. First of all, we didn't have some key pieces going into that North Texas State game. We were without 4 players, including all conference center Jeremiah Kendall. He was out. Keandre Montgomery did not play. So we were without 4 key pieces going into that North Texas State game. And we lost 3 kids due to eligibility that have played out their eligibility. Dontrell McQuarters is one, Otis Walker's another, and another kid who's really playing well in the middle of Darius Marshall. I think the future is bright. Landon Bussey now will have to go out and recruit and get some tough-minded kids that can kind of get us to the finish line. I think clearly if you look at Byron Joshua and you look at some of the other kids that we got coming back, I think clearly we've got enough pieces. DK Thorne, who was a walk-on, who really played well. I think the foundation is there. It's just a matter of adding some more pieces. We're going to need a couple of bigs. We're going to need another mid. Otis Walker played out of eligibility. So there's some work to do as far as getting back to where we want to be. It's clearly a disappointment, but at the same time, I think the future is bright, and it's just a matter of adding to the pieces. The culture is there, the standard is there. So it's just a matter of going out and adding in those pieces. And I think he will. There's no question about it. It's going to be tougher, though. Texas Southern, you expect them to be better. You expect Grambling to be better. Jackson State was a surprise in terms of how deep they got the tournament. They're going to be better. Alabama A&M was a surprise. They'll be better. So it's not going to be any easier as teams continue to elevate, and you have to continue to elevate if you want to continue the run of regular season titles and having deep runs in the tournament. Disappointing for Landon Bussey, yes, but he loves a challenge. He provides no excuses, and he says there will be no drop off, despite the players that we lost. There will be no drop off. We will be back.
I noticed you did mention Southern University. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Oh,
Because, well, no, no, no. Because there's still a lot of uncertainty from alumni and fans. What's going to happen. And you think about it. I agree. Everyone's going to improve. That is the goal each and every off season, to look at the program, open it up, see what you've done well or doing well, what you need to improve on, and then work and fix on those things. I mean, every program you look at, it's a year-round situation, even from the competitive standpoint. And then when you're not competing in the off season, it's still things that needs to be done and work to be done. Nothing being said coming out of Baton Rouge one way or the other. If you're thinking about will there be a change, and we kind of talked about it in the last couple of weeks, but I'm thinking if nothing is being said, then maybe the basketball program and AD Banks, maybe they're happy at this point right now. Be, and maybe because if something a change was going to happen, do you think something would have been said already? But then maybe not. In Coach Banks' situation at Southern University, but the speculation is out there. A local high school, former Southern University. Let's just put it out there. Resigned from a high school program. Tremendous record. I mean, state championships left and right. But it may be an opportunity for him, and it was put out in the local newspaper here, in the Advocate. You know who I'm talking about, Carlos Sample. So apparently he is going to have an opportunity somewhere. So the speculation continues. I'm not saying that, hey, he will be at his alma mater in some fashion, a form, but maybe another opportunity somewhere else on the collegiate level. Until Southern University says something or an official release one way or the other, it will be continued speculation. Coach Woods, is he still going to be at Southern University? Thanks to Mr. Williams, who sent me an email, Nicolas Brown Show at gmail.com. Contract for Coach Woods officially ends June 30th, 2023. Coach Funches, who I text with this morning trying to get him on, we couldn't work it out. His contract officially ends June 30th, 2024. Now, they've won a SWAC tournament championship. That's his second one in his tenure. My criteria is that in a 5-year period, you can get one championship. And in his case, when we're talking about tournament championships, he's gotten two. He's won two. And he's been there over 5 years. I would think that he will get an extension. Now, some have said, well, let's see what happens this last season technically for him coming up. But I think they're going to, in my humble opinion, I think they're going to give him an extension. On the men's side, once again, it's just speculation. I could come on and give you my opinion. I did that last week, what I would do. But I'm not a AD. I'm just a Southern alum. So we'll see, Charles. It's going to be very interesting. Texas Southern, 84-61 loss to Fairleigh Dickinson, FDU, and then they came out and just took out Purdue, as you stated, and they're from a smaller conference. I'm gonna go and look at their, or if anybody can look it up now, let's look at their non-conference schedule, and let's see and kind of compare and contrast. Finally, Jackson State women put up a valiant effort, and they dropped an 11-point decision to Memphis. You gotta love Coach Reed, a competitor like Coach Bussey, and they're never satisfied. They're grateful for an opportunity. They're grateful to coach, but they're never satisfied until they can be the best that they can be, just from the outside looking in. Um, but a tremendous season for them. They lost to Southern in the SWAC tournament, but you can't negate just a successful season. So for all of the participants in postseason in the Southwest Athletic Conference, uh, good season, very good season, and now looking forward to what next season brings. Coach Funches is out recruiting already, and I'm sure other coaches are doing the same. So it's a year-round cycle, Charles. Also, I want to switch gears a little bit. Kofi Hemingway, co-host on the OG Strike Zone, passed away. It's a colleague here on the Black College Sports Network. And Charles, I didn't get to meet him in person, but being a guest on their show, the OG Strike Zone, um, very good guy. And Charles, we never know. We never know when it is time for us to depart this physical earth. But he touched a lot of people, and just kind of looking at social media. So keep the Hemingway family. There is a place where you can cash app the family during this time, but continue to pray for them and keep them lifted up in prayers. That's a tough situation, and I think everybody in this listening audience and those who are watching, we've all had to deal with that kind of situation. You have, Charles, I have, and it's never easy. And you try to think of something that else that you can say and tell uh, the family and those left behind. Um, but just prayer works to keep them lifted up and think about them. And um, Kofi Hemingway has a journey from this life, and we wish the best for the family. Yep, thank you, Melanie. Um, yeah, please contribute to his wife. Cash App AKH Hemingway. So that was kind of shocking. I kind of woke up to the news, and I'm just sad I didn't get a chance to meet him in person. But again, I talked with him on the OG Strike Zone, and very good guy, humble, just from what I could see. So once again, prayers for his family. Continued prayers. We're gonna take a time out, Charles. It's 11:39 Central Standard Time. Other guests on today's show will be Coach Vann Pettaway. It's going to be interesting, Charles, because we've kind of talked about it this first hour. Some of the things that uh, basketball programs in the conference, what they need to do. You mentioned about the commissioner, Dr. McClellan, offering what needs to be done. So it's down to this: how quickly. First of all, will they adapt, change their philosophy, and if they don't, then I'm not committed to just keep talking about this for 5 years from now. You know, I I want to see action. You may comment, and you may want to do it. You rightfully so can do it. Um, but I like to see our conference get a little bit better. Now there are success for HBCUs on the Division II level in tournament action. You look at some of the brackets, you can hear them just touring up. You, I'll tell you this, Charles, pretty much. And I was telling my coworker in the tournament, you almost you have to be looking over your shoulder if you're a higher seed because those lower seeds are coming and you're going to get their A game and you can see what happened. Memphis went down. So be prepared. I think this is what you're going to see going on in the future.
Two words: transfer portal. Transfer portal. Transfer
Hmm.
portal. These
I
programs are
think.
getting better. These lower tier programs in the past are getting better. Transfer portal. There's more talent out there. There's more improved talent to choose from. Programs are getting
Mhm.
better across the board. Even if you take a look at the SWAC, you take a look at our program. Landon Bussey makes no bones about it. He's always diving into the transfer portal. He's going to probably do it again. Transfer portal. These programs are getting better. Just look at how many players have transferred since the end of college basketball season, over 1,000 already. And it's going to continue to grow. Transfer portal. These
Well,
programs, these kids that have been at these top tier programs, if they feel like they're not the best fit, they're going to hit the portal and they're going to wind up at some of these other programs that might not be top tier on paper, but they will elevate those programs. And I think you're seeing that. It's been talked about already. So I think that, and this is the other thing about the SWAC too. I mean, we have to continue to hit the portal and improve our product that way. And I know the old school mentality of getting freshmen and letting them grow, that's kind of unfortunately for high school kids, it's tough. And, I hate that. But where we are right now, transfer portal. Coaches are diving in it. Coaches are holding scholarships for kids in the portal. It's happening. And so you're talking about upsets. That's a big part of it. Transfer portal. You got a lot of these kids that are winding up. A kid that may have been at Memphis winds up at another school that may not have the visibility of Memphis, but elevates that particular program. So let's just call that what, in my humble opinion, I think the transfer portal is making a huge impact on these second tier programs. And I think that's a part of the reason why you're seeing some of these upsets and probably going to see some more today. And so I think that's
mhm.
the huge issue with these upsets. Transfer portal. These programs are getting better. The lower tier programs are getting better. The mid-major programs are getting better. The top tier programs are still going to get that talent, but the portal's wide open to where if you feel like you need to make a move, you're going to make a move. And so I think that's what you're seeing. Purdue goes down. Memphis goes down. You're going to see more. Arizona goes down. Who knows what's to come today? But I think the transfer is a huge reason as to why you're seeing these mid-major programs get elevated. And some of the top tier programs fall a little bit. Transfer portal.
So you're saying that's the number one and the only reason? I'm going to have to make a call to Dr. Cavill and see compare. I think there were upsets happening before the transfer portal. I
Yeah,
know it's a factor. Then what does it say about coaching? Farley Dickerson. I think their coach came from, I think I'm right, Division Two, and some of those Division Two players transferred in. But what about coaching? I think coaching is still a major part in it. I'm not saying it's just like the transfer portal is not important. I know it's a factor, but is it the main and only factor? That I would kind of question. And um, I wonder if you put the numbers up, transportal years before, and I think you will see. I think it will be. You will see that there were upsets happening even before the transfer portal area. So I don't know. I'm gonna ask Dr. Cavill. He's the guy that digs into the data, and let's see. And he does the research as well. If there are more upsets since the transfer portal, or was it the same amount, or a little bit less, or more, or a comparable number?
yeah. I'll clarify what I said. I do think there's other factors involved, obviously, but I think
Hmm.
what you're seeing though is that teams are improving. Teams that you thought wouldn't be there in a tournament situation are there in part because of not in totality, but the transfer portal is a factor. Maybe I overstated it in saying it being the number one factor, but I think it is a factor. And look, the grind of a college basketball season is real. I look at our head coach after we lost that game with North Texas. He just, knowing that he's always focused on the next thing, the next year, he said he just needed a break. And I hadn't heard
Hmm.
Landon Busty say that in 3 years. This was a grind of a season. So when you look at that from a coaching perspective, I do think coaches are a little bit more feistier. I think the money aspect of it NIL's a part of it. Transfer portal's a part of it. So I do think it's a lot of small pieces that are changing. The dynamic of college athletics is changing a little bit. And I think as far as the blue bloods and the big boys, they're still going to get what they're going to get. The Kentuckys, the Dukes, the North Carolinas, they're going to get the players that they're going to get. But I do think that if players don't get what they feel like that they should, playing time or whatever the case, they're going to find other opportunities. And there are other opportunities in smaller programs that would love to have you, and you can help elevate their program and you get something out of it as well. So I do think the dynamics of college basketball, you're seeing, to me, in my opinion, a little bit more of a shift than you are in football. I mean, Georgia's still going to get who they're going to get. LSU's still going to get who they're going to get. It's going to elevate some of the other programs too, but I think in college basketball, in my opinion, I think you're seeing a little bit of a shift more so than you're seeing in college football. And in a one-game situation in March Madness, you just never know. You could be a little bit off your spot, and another team that's not given a chance feels like if they stay in the game, and we've seen these upsets already where the team that's favored just doesn't have it, opens the door, and next thing you know, the underdog feels it a little bit, knocks down some shots, and before you know it, the upsets happen, and we've seen it already. But I do think it's a lot of factors. My point is that I think the transfer portal is a pretty decent piece of this.
On that note, we'll take a timeout. We'll continue the discussion in the chat room. Let us know. Do you think how big of an impact has been the transfer portal on basketball? We're talking basketball specifically, or do you think it's multiple factors? I brought up the point of just outstanding coaching and being able to make adjustments during a game. And we saw some coaches do that. And they had to put together a great game plan because FDU, they had to have a great game plan and they executed their game plan. And I don't think they have any top 5 quote unquote talent. I know they had some transfer portal players to come in, but I'm putting a lot of the weight on good coaching, execution, having a great game plan, and underdogs are saying this: we're coming for you. We're seated low, but we're coming for the top seeds. And then parity. We hear that word. That's a factor as well, but I know there are sub factors under that. When we come back, I think we're scheduled to have Coach Pettaway on, and let's get his perspective on all of this. I mean, I could be wrong. I'm just offering my opinion on it. But March Madness, there's a reason why they call it March Madness. You will go mad if you fill out a bracket. I'm going on a strike. And I mean it. I'm not filling out a bracket for the next 5 years. I know somebody else said he said that before.
How many brackets are left? How many solid brackets are left? Is it less than 0.5%? I mean, it's unbelievable.
I tell you what, they ought to do a competition and say this: what underdog team or lower seed will go the furthest, go far into the tournament, because that's where the action's at. Everyone likes the underdog. We'll take a timeout. You're watching the Carlos Brown Show on the Black College Sports Network.
The Cuvée Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cuvée.
It's like a loop machine. All around town, people trying to get down.
Shop Velvet Online Women's Boutique to spice up your closet with trendy, unique looks. We have fashionable and chic looks at very affordable prices. Velvet Boutique offers free shipping all year long on all orders. Shop online at www.melvetboutique.com. That's www.melvetboutique.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram. Shop Velvet Online Women's Boutique.
This is Brian Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
Time to call a credit repair company to fix my credit.
Hold the phone, man. You can do it yourself with Credit Versio.
That's way too hard. Call the credit repair company. Most credit repair companies only work on 1 or 2 accounts at a time, making it slow and expensive. You won't figure that out for months. Ignore him. Credit Versio's brilliant software scans all 3 credit bureaus, finds the accounts that are hurting your score, and guides you through the entire process. Anyone can do it. Let's fast forward and see the results. Wow, I fixed my own credit and saved hundreds. You can do this. Visit creditversio.com.
I'm attorney Clinton Paris, and Tampa's my community. I grew up here, went to school here, and my wife and I make our home here. What makes Tampa special are its people. So when I represent someone injured in my community, it's personal. Call my office and speak to a real lawyer and not some referral service. I will fight the insurance companies to get the settlement that you deserve. At the law office of Clinton Paris, we take the pain out of being heard.
Maureen is saving big holiday shopping at Amazon, so now she's free to become Maureen the Merrier. Food is her love language, and she really loves her grandson, like really loves.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
You know, it's always the sound of the band, whether it's at NCAA tournament, of course, football season in Louisiana, and in parts of Alabama, Mardi Gras.
Yep.
Bands are always entertaining. Speaking of entertaining, we've got the coach now. Coach Vann Pettaway joins us. Coach, I'm sure you was able to listen to the conversation. Me and Charles having a discussion, a slight disagreement, I guess, but I think me and Charles we like to debate. It's just simple as that. Good morning, Coach.
Hey, good morning, guys. I'm happy to be here. I know you all are probably like millions of people across the country. Your bracket is already torn up
Yep.
because of all the upsets. But believe it or not, 3 of my teams are still in play for the Final Four. So I only messed up with Purdue. Purdue let me down. Other than that, I'm still looking pretty good.
Well, I'm glad. I'm gonna be pulling for you, Coach Pettaway. I hadn't looked at that bracket. I tore it up. It happens every year. When am I going to learn? I'll leave it up to the experts or the coaches, like you guys, because I mean we're seeing, and we've called them underdogs. We mentioned parity. We've seen it every year. Um, and thanks, Dr. Cavill. Dr. Cavill said it's not really a big increase in the decades,
Right.
since the transfer portal with, and I guess I'm interpreting it as they've always been upsets, and I think the numbers are kind of like even, maybe, um, with with these upsets. We've seen them when we can go back in history, even in the SWAC. We saw Southern upset Georgia Tech. I know they weren't a 16 seed, but they were a little bit better. But coach, we see Fairleigh Dickinson, FDU, play well against Texas Southern and then pull off the shocker, knocking down a number one seed. Coach Pettaway, you're not surprised at what's going on, are you?
No, because his style of play, you got to think about it now. This guy has coached on all levels: high school, junior college, Division II, and he finally got his shot as a head coach at a Division I school, a school that didn't win but 5 games last year. And he got
Wow.
him. You remember now, if things had been right, he wouldn't even been in the tournament. Merrimack won
Mm-hmm.
the regular season championship. They also won the
Mm-hmm.
tournament. FDU got in because Merrimack is still in that probationary period. So they're not eligible
Okay.
to represent their conference. But his style of play, look at what he did now. He has the smallest team in Division I. His tallest player is 6'7", but he spreads people out. They shoot the three, they run, they press, and on defense, he will adjust game by game to do whatever they think needs to be done to win the game. They felt like that if they collapsed on Edie, they would allow the other team, the other players on the team, to beat them. They said Edie is not going to be the one to beat us. So what did Edie do? Every time he got it, they collapsed on it. He kicked it out. For that game, his perimeter people weren't knocking down shots. They went, I think they only hit like 2 3 pointers the entire game. So he had a perfect game plan. His kids believed in what they were doing because they won all year. See, they had confidence
Mm-hmm.
coming in because they knew that the previous year, that team had only won 5 games. And they were way above that. They didn't get the superstar transfers from the portal. This man brought 3 of his Division II players with him, and they're now stars on the Division I level. See, I think that's what Division II gets a bad rap. A lot of people think those kids can't play, but I'm gonna tell you something.
Mm-hmm.
Some of my better teams have been in Division II, and they could beat
Mm-hmm.
anybody that will line up against us. So you can get players on all different levels. It doesn't necessarily have to always come from the portal, because we have examples in the SWAC of teams that relied heavily on the portal. Their season were not successful because, see, even when you
Mm-hmm.
bring in all these different players, they still got to gel and be able to play your brand of basketball in a short period of time. It doesn't always work. And then the thing that you gotta remember too, if you look at what some of our football teams have done in the SWAC, they rely heavily on the portal, but they were not successful. So it doesn't work. The portal, just because you go to the portal, just because a kid was at a Power 5 school and you bring him into your program, that does not turn your program into a winner. Because if that kid was not, if he leaving that Power 5 school because of lack of playing time, there's a reason why that kid is not playing now. Because
Hmm.
that head coach of the Power 5 school, he wants to win, so he's playing his best players. And a lot of times on that with that transfer, that means that kid's talent and skill level did not allow them to get into the rotation to where they can get the minutes that they were looking for. And so it hurts when some of these teams rely specifically on the portal. It's not there's not a formula out there right now that says that if you hit the portal, it's going to mean automatic success. Because there are too many failures out there that have hit the portal, and they are proving that it does not always work. But style of play, whether it's in football or basketball, has a lot to do with what happens during the game, during the competition. And we're seeing more of that this year. You've had more higher seeds to go down, because not only did Purdue go down, you look at Virginia. Virginia failed. Arizona failed. So see, you got other teams that are falling, and it's because of who they're playing, their style. They're not ready for that style of play. And in a tournament action, you don't have a lot of time to prepare for your opponent.
So matchups.
Correct. Matchups.
And I still say coaching and making in-game adjustments, because you just said you don't have a lot of, well, before the first game, that's probably the most time that you have, right, to do a scouting report.
Correct.
But then after that, it's quick. Okay.
Correct. It's quick. And see that matchups really rely. Let's stay in the SWAC. When I was in the SWAC coaching, I could handle just about every team in the SWAC. We did pretty decent against every team in the SWAC, right? When Arkansas Pine Bluff got Bird, and Charles, you got to help me with this, because as I get older, I forget stuff. But that group that came in with Bird, they had my number, man. I could not. The 3, the 4, and the 5. The 3, the 4, and the 5. I could not match up with them. So every time we played them, if I won the game, I barely won it. But with that group, they had a run against me because of matchups. It wasn't. I was the same coach. I was doing some of the same things. I always knew that there was a certain pressure that I could apply to them where I could create turnovers. That still worked. But when it came to me matching up against them on the defensive end, half court, I was at a disadvantage, man, because of matchups. And that's what you will see sometimes in this tournament play. That's what you will see sometimes, like in the SWAC this year. Alabama A&M beating Southern 3 times. It was matchups. It was because of matchups. And every now and then, you're going to have a coaching cycle where you as a coach will create that problem, or you're going to see that problem. And that's what's that's what happened. When you go down to Alcorn, when Coach Whitney used to own me on the reservation, it was always the matchups. His fours, I could never beat his 3s and 4s. But I could win in some of the other positions, but they were so powerful that they overcame what I put up. Coach Whitney was one of the first coaches in the SWAC to double team my post. He would not let me beat him in the post because I didn't know if the double team was. I didn't know if the double team was coming across or if it was coming down, but it was coming. And I spent all my time teaching my post players how to step out, reverse, pivot, so that you can pass out of this double team. I said, because he's not going to allow you to score. I said, you might as well take the night off and become Magic Johnson by making assists. Because the man's not going to let you score. See, he's going to take that away. See, in every game, Carlos, as a coach, when you start game planning, you're going to try to take something away that your opponent likes to do. And you better hope that that's the right thing on your behalf, because if they make an adjustment and start doing something else, you take that away from them and they do something else, you better be ready for it. Going into every
In-game
game, you want to try
adjustments.
to make right. You got to make that team that you're playing against uncomfortable somewhere on that floor if you're gonna have a chance of winning the basketball game.
We're
And
visiting with
that's what
Coach.
it's right. That's what we're seeing,
Nope.
Carlos. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, if someone's just tuning in, we're visiting with Coach Vann, Pettaway, former men's basketball coach at Alabama A&M. Charles and Coach, I've always heard this when this time of the year before it starts, they say in tournament play. Now they specifically talk about tournament play, but I think it's overall. You gotta have great guard play, and that leads me to this. Fernandez Griffin. He used to be an administrative assistant for Coach Pete Richardson, and he told me he coached AAU basketball. He said he thought, in his opinion, in the SWAC, if you can have good guard play, and he also liked to have athletic bigs. But I'm gonna go back to the guard play. How crucial, how important is that? Because I've heard this for years. Not that they're dismissing the post, but they're like, you gotta have great guard play. You agree, Coach Pettaway?
Yes, I do. You got to whether you in the SWAC or whether you in the MEAC or you in the Pac-10 or the Big Ten, SEC. You better have good guard play, or else all that mess going out the window. Because you got number one, your guard has to set the table. Your guard's got to set the table for other people to eat. He's got to set the table for the 2 to 3 to 4 and the 5. He's got to be the coach on the floor to make sure that the ball is getting to the right place. All right. That guard also has to be able to understand time and score. He's got to do all these things. And most of the time, if you don't have good guard play, you can have the best post players in the world. It's not going to work. Your guards got to be able to stretch the floor. Your guards got to be able to open things up so that your post game can work. Your guard has to be able to recognize mismatch situations. Your guards got to be able to come off of pick and rolls and put the ball in the right place. Your guard has to be able to make a pass. See, some people say just pass the ball. Heck no, don't just pass the ball. You got to make a pass that your shooter can receive the ball in the shooting pocket and make a shot. If he receives a bad pass and has to shoot the ball, that's going to be a missed shot. So there are a lot of little things that go into this, but if you don't have guard play, even in the NBA, the teams that win championships, they got great guard play. Yeah, they got the bigs, they got the forwards and the bigs, but those guys will be neutralized if you don't have good guard play in order to facilitate, to make sure that they're getting the ball at their sweet spots. I call it their sweet spot. You give me a shooter, you give me a guy that can shoot the basketball, and you show me, and he showed me where his favorite spot is, I'm going to design something to where we can get him there. Now it's up to my guards to make sure he gets the ball in his sweet spot, especially if he's a catch and shoot guy. I'm not talking about a guy that can create his own shot. I'm talking about you as a coach getting a player who can score to his spot and he gets the ball in the right shooting form. And that's where guard play comes in. It's very important, man. To me, you cannot win without good guard play, because not only are they setting the table, now they got to turn around and disrupt the opponent. They have to turn around and disrupt the opponent so that they don't have good guard play. So it's very important, Carlos.
Yeah. And guys, I'm going to reference it to the analysts when I was watching Texas Southern and I call him FDU, Farrell Dickerson. Their offense, Coach, can you speak on it? It was like they had 5 out, and it was like a motion, And when I tell you, even their bigs can handle the ball and shoot, and the analysts were saying that was unique, and Texas Southern had a hard time dealing with it. But it was the five players on the perimeter, and a lot of ball reversal and spacing and a lot of motion.
Right, because what happened, because they're not big, so those were like guards that uh, Walker and Nichols, they were actually like having to guard a guard instead of guarding forwards and centers because they don't have that. You know, his 6'7" people are really big, tall guards. And so they're playing five out. Nichols and Walker are not accustomed to staying on the perimeter and playing defense. They'll come up on the screen. Now coaches told them whether or not in this game we're gonna hedge or whether or not we're gonna let our defender come through. They're used to that. But that's one play where they go up and come back. FDU, they kept you on the perimeter. They kept you on the perimeter. So now they're staying out there. Now they can't be the dominant forces that they were on the inside. They can't rebound like they've been because they're on the perimeter. It's hard to rebound you at the 3-point line.
And coach,
And so
doesn't it also
in the SWAC, you didn't have anybody playing like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it was new to them. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. But coach, even Walker, who I think led Texas Southern, but then you gotta chase those guys out, and then it affects him offensively because the defense, he's spending a lot of energy. Okay, I got it. See, I had to point to my head there.
Yep.
Boy,
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened. Go ahead, Charles.
Yeah, I would say this. In the football analogy, you can't win in football without a quarterback, right? Mm-hmm. You've got to have good guard play to win in basketball. It's kind of the same thing. And so when you look at the SWAC in your guards, our guard Byron Joshua was really good this year. Didn't make all conference, should have, but he's really good. He carried us in a number of games. PJ Henry was out for Texas Southern.
Yes.
For the first part of the season. And that's part of the reason why they started 0-5 in conference. He came back down the stretch. He scored 41 against us. He wasn't a big factor against us in the SWAC tournament game, but he had a really good run those last couple of games. And so clearly, when you look at that game with Fairleigh Dickinson, he wasn't as big of a factor. And when you have teams like with the Texas Southern, when you have Jordan Carl Nicholas, as you talked about, Coach, and John Walker, they're used to just camping on the block and in the paint. They're not used to being out on the perimeter. And so when you get a team with matchup issues like that, and Texas Southern plays the way that they play, Johnny Jones wants those guys to be on the block. But then when you got to guard the perimeter, they go right around you. And, when they get in the teeth of the defense, it's all over with. So it is a matchup issue for sure. But you got to have good guard play that can distribute, that can score, and that can play a little bit of defense if you want to have some success.
Man, that makes me think of Charles Princeton and their offense. Oh, they backed it. Oh, my goodness.
Backdoor cut. Yeah. A lot of motion.
and see, when you run against teams like that, it messes with your psyche. It's sort of like in football, Charles. They don't see the triple option every game. And when they run up against the triple option, it gives them problems in that game because no one else is doing it. And in basketball, you run into the same scenario. You'll come across an offense where they're playing the 5 out. You don't see that often. It's hard to prepare for it, and it's hard for your players to make the adjustment to that. And that's why I'm saying style of play has a lot to do with whether or not you are in a game or have an opportunity to win a game. Yeah. And you got to always remember that. See, when the fans in the stands, they don't understand, well, why we not doing better? Because they don't understand the game. They don't understand the game. I thought Texas Southern did a great job coming off of the SWAC win. I mean, winning the SWAC tournament. But you look at it now, they didn't have a lot of time to prepare for them. It wasn't a lot of time. You know, the days in between. Number one, you got to get the film on them. You got to have time to break it down, and then you got to have time to translate it to your team. Where was that time? There was not a lot of time for that. There was not a lot of time for that. So I really, to be honest, Texas Southern, Alcorn State, Southern's women, I felt like, and Jackson State's women, I felt like they all represented the SWAC well. No, we didn't win. No, we didn't win a game. But we were not embarrassed either.
Yeah.
We were not embarrassed. So I as a former coach of the SWAC, I'm proud of what our coaches have done and what they can do. And I guarantee you, you will, in the future, you're going to see a SWAC team win another playoff game. It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
Coach, let me ask you a quick
Mhm.
question about the playing game. You just brought up an interesting point because I'm hearing this privately, kind of behind the scenes, in terms of the philosophy of when you win the tournament and you go to the playing game compared to being a 16 or 15 seed. I always thought, in my opinion, I thought it was better to avoid the play on Thursday, Friday to start your first round game. But more of our SWAC coaches, from what I've been told, rather would go the play-in route, like a Texas Southern did when they won last year and then they played Kansas. You got to travel and all that. What is your philosophy, coach yourself? Would you rather go the play-in route, or would you rather be a 15 or a 16 playing on Thursday or Friday to open up? And as you mentioned, you have more time to get back on campus, get film, and then hit the road. What's your philosophy on that? As if you were coaching right now, what path would you rather take?
Well, if with the way things are set up right now, I'd rather go to the first four because number one, I'm going to play a team that's more in line to what I've been doing all year in my conference.
Mhm.
Okay, so now I got a better chance of beating that team if I'm playing them on a Wednesday or a Thursday. Now, Charles, go back to when I won the SWAC. We played on Sunday. We played Sunday
Mhm.
afternoon.
And then
I
turn
had
right back
enough
around.
time. I had enough time to get back to Huntsville for the 6 o'clock show. I mean, the announcement. All right. The next morning, I was on the flight and we played on a Tuesday. I
You
didn't
right?
even get I
Yep.
didn't even get the film. We didn't even get the film until we got to the hotel. So I had no chance to relay stuff to my players. Now in that situation, no, I would not want that. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. That was the most unprepared game that I've ever gone into, and it was because of logistics. Not because we didn't want to, it was logistics. But now that they let you play on Wednesday and Thursday, take that. All right. And then now, back then we were exchanging actual film. I mean, see, VHS tapes and that kind of stuff.
Oh
Now
yeah.
you can just go on. You can go on and download the stuff instantly, right? So
Right.
now, as a coaching staff, you got this stuff where you can break it down, and as you flying now, they can put it on the kids' phones, on their tablets. At least
Mhm.
they're seeing stuff. You may not be going over on the court right away, but at least the kids are getting an idea of what they got to go up against. So, as a coach, I would not mind playing in the first four because that's better than me going against a number one seed. Because if our conference is still doing the same thing to where we're going to be either the last or the next to the last, we're going to be a 16 seed. When Southern beat Georgia Tech, they were a 13 seed.
Right.
They were a 13 seed. So they got a pretty good draw. They had more time to get ready. Okay? If you're playing late in the week you got a better chance of preparing your team.
Right.
But with the first 4 games being on a Wednesday, I will take that because we're not playing on a Saturday. I will take that. So now my kids get an opportunity to play against a team that they stand a better chance of winning. And now as the SWAC, we get a win on our belt. Now they put us against that number 1 seed. Well, we already got 1 win. Who knows? We may do like FDU. We may have enough confidence after that first win that we may be able to upset that number 1 seed. So it's a confidence thing. It's a game planning, and I promise you, fellas, you got to have the mindset of your players has got to be in the right place in order for you to pull off a win like what FDU has done. To put Purdue away. Yep.
And it's a good start as we look at the competition with the SWAC on both the men's and women's side, but playing against the Pac-12. You know, Grambling had some good non-conference wins, Alcorn State and Wichita State. So that leads me to this. We've gotten better. And Charles interviewed the commissioner. Coach Pettaway, quite honestly, I'm tired of having the conversation where we know as a conference, the blueprint is there. We know what needs to be done. But they're at the crossroads as far as the goal should be to one day be able to get an at-large bid plus a tournament champion. With that being said, the blueprint is we've got to change our scheduling philosophy. Do you see it happening anytime soon? Because I've promised to go to be a monk in Tibet, shave my head. I'm already bald. What else can I do? I'm tired of having a conversation. Will the conference as a whole change their scheduling philosophy in the near future?
It would have to come from the conference office. It would have to be mandated from the conference office in order to get it done. Because if you leave it up to individual schools, they're going after the money. They're going to play the money games. They're going to play 14 or 15. They're not looking at the mindset of the players. The administration's not looking at that. They're looking at dollars and cents. We had this opportunity with this men's basketball team to go out there and bring in all this money, $1 million. We gonna do it. Now they're not looking at how the kids are feeling, what they're going up against. They don't care. Well, no, I'm not gonna say they don't care. That's not part of their process when they think about this. But as a coach, I'm thinking about it. I don't want to play 14, 12. I don't want to play double-digit guarantee games. I want to get back to where the SWAC used to be. Back when Coach Joe was at Southern, I knew for a fact that the conference told everybody to play regional teams. You could only play two money games. When you play 2 money games, Southern got the SWAC was not the 16th seed because they won games against teams. Now they have changed the criteria now because they want you with the quad 1 wins and all of that stuff. But I promise you,
how about quad 2?
Right. And see
Quad
with
3.
the seat, I was very disappointed that Grambling did not go anywhere. With all the non-conference wins that they had against Power 5 teams and mid-major teams, I felt like they should have been in postseason play. I thought that the committees for the NIT and the NC2A was out from the get-go. I knew they weren't going to put them in at large, but I thought that the NIT would have given them a bid because of their schedule, because of the wins that they had on their schedule.
Quality
I thought they should have
non-conference
been in.
wins.
Right. I thought they should have been in with their non-conference schedule. But in terms of the SWAC changing, it's got to come from the conference office. It's got to be legislated, mandated. That's the only way it's going to happen. Because the administrators, the ADs, and the presidents are going to make those coaches go out and play those games. That's a fact, man.
And the president's in chance to make up the Council of Presidents.
Right.
Well, Charles, I'm not going to hold my breath. You can have the discussion in the next 3 or 4 years. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to be stubborn. But what I will hope for is that there's a change of the mindset. Hopefully that'll happen. But I'm not really too confident about it. But I'll speak my mind. I'll continue to speak my opinion on it. And we shall see. Guess we'll get the athletic perspective standpoint again with Will if he wants to speak on it again. But last but not least, Coach, I had something else I wanted to ask you.
Was it about college? Was it about NBA?
No, the tournament that's postponed. When during the break we talked about it coming back. And would, if it was going on this year, I'm sure they would have would they have invited Grambling State, and would it have been a home game?
Grambling State, well, that's up to Grambling now. Here's the first thing.
You would offer them a home game.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, I just wanted to be sure.
Right. Yes. Grambling would have been in. I'm going to be honest. Southern had an outside chance of getting in.
Mm-hmm.
Probably would have had to fought this year more, but I think they would have had a chance of getting in. But that tournament did not make this year because we had so many teams to turn us down last year. We could not put a full field out there last year because a lot of teams just didn't want to do it, man. They didn't want to participate.
Coach, give the name of the tournament again.
CIT.
Yeah. Okay.
The CIT. So you got the CBI. That's going on now. You know, they got their 16
college CIT College Invitational Tournament. Okay.
Correct. Well, it's the College Insider Invitational Tournament. That's what the CIT was. But and you know, you've been having it for years. We've had several teams in the SWAC to play in it. Grambling, Alabama State. It's been great to HBCUs. They would always get teams. We would always get teams out of MEAC. And give them an opportunity to have postseason play. And we just had a lot of teams that did not want to participate last year. And so they made a decision not to even do it this year. So hopefully we'll have it back for next year. That's the goal.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
Well,
and it presents another opportunity for teams who lose in their conference tournament to continue their season. I remember like when we presented Jackson State. Remember when Coach first got Coach Brent when he was at Jackson State. They had that great run. They lost in the SWAC tournament. They were all down at the press conference, and I was able to find their athletic director first and tell him that we wanted to extend an invitation. And when he accepted, I was able to come back into the press conference because they were doing the post-game press conference. And that's when I informed them that their season didn't have to be over with if they wanted to continue. And you should have seen it, man. The players and the coaches, they couldn't believe it. And it was different between night and day. But their invitation was extended during the post-game press conference. And I thought that was great for the – yep. And they won, too. You know, they won their first game.
Mm-hmm.
They won their first game that in that tournament. So it's a great tournament, man. And it's been Joe Dwyer is the guy that has been doing this tournament for years. He's the guy that comes up with the postseason award for coaches. You got the Ben Job Awards. You got Coach Winston-Salem. Oh, man.
Big House.
Lord have mercy. Big House Games. I'm sorry. You
Yeah,
got the
Big House
Big
game.
House
Yeah.
Games Award. So he's named his award, some of his awards after HBCU coaches. He tries to have a John McClendon Classic where he puts an HBC school against either another school. The ideal thing is to go HBCU against HBCU, but we haven't always been able to pull that off. But he's always looked out for the underdog. And these coaches and players have been getting recognized for years, man, by this organization. And I was really hurt when we did not, as a SWAC, accept a bid to a tournament that's been out there that has been helping HBCUs for all these years. But that was just me hurt because I've been
Right.
I'm on the committee. I've been a part of their board for years, and it just hurt me because I'm from the SWAC, and I want to see the
All
best
right.
for us. But Southern had their reasons, so I have to live with that. I have to live with that.
Well,
And
it
I
seems
think
like.
some of that, Carlos, could be financial
Mhm.
too. I mean, I just found out for the NIT, for example, that you don't get a guarantee for going to the NIT financially. You get help with some expenses, but other than that, you're not profiting from the NIT. It's all about exposure. I mean, like Coach said, it's about playing some more postseason basketball, get your program out there, get your conference out there, even though, you don't get the NCAA thing, but the NIT is a prestigious tournament, and so you want to get your name out there. So, finances do play a part in some of this too, I believe, because if it's costing you a lot of money to go and you're not getting anything back financially, that's a tough call to make for some administrators, CFOs, presidents, ADs, especially during this time of year where there's no football going on. And that's a whole nother conversation. But that's just the reality of the mindset of what's going on today within our schools that don't get talked about a lot. Financially, it's tough right now, in terms of just making a buck or two. So I think that's a big factor in it as well, in my opinion.
Right. And then, but
Well,
I'm gonna tell you this now, for us, we pay the expenses. Yeah,
mhm.
we pay the expenses. Yep, yep. But it's a
Well,
it's a but you're right, Charles, because some schools don't want to host. That's why they want to host. You talk to a school about host, they said no, we rather go on the road. There have been years where they were having problems getting schools to host, but now it wasn't just financial. Sometimes the arenas are already given out. That's why, like in the NIT now, we got several schools that would have hosted, but they had to go on the road because their administration has already rented out their basketball arenas.
Right. Sam Houston
Yep.
State was one, coach, because our game, if we had won, we would have played Sam Houston State or Santa Clara. Sam Houston was the higher seed, but their arena was unavailable. So they took their home
Right.
game to Santa Clara. So that's an example there. Yeah, the arena was unavailable in that situation.
Right. Yeah, that will happen. That has happened too. So you're right. Finances play uh, a lot in postseason play when it's not the NC2A but you still, even with the NC2A, they pay for your flights and all that up front, but you don't really get your money till the thing's over with.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that leads, and we'll, I guess, discuss this at a later date. Um, there's conversation of talk, I guess, about fans and alums about a HBCU tournament, a postseason. So we'll stop right
And
there.
look, I think. And look, yeah, we're gonna need about a month to talk about that because there have been two that I'm aware of groups,
Mhm.
two different groups that have talked about having a HBCU national championship in basketball, and I think is needed. I
Is
think
it
we
time?
should.
Is it time? Is it time? Get all the thinking
Yeah, but
minds together
okay,
and get it done.
I think, hey, Carlos, it should happen, but I still think we ought to come up with a formula where a team can still participate in the NC2A. All right, I'll
Mhm.
tell you this much. the group that I was being a part of, if it had worked out, you weren't even going to have, the tournament wasn't going to even start until the Elite Eight. Because what that would have done, that would have given whatever team in the MEAC or the SWAC that went to the playoffs, to NC2A playoffs, if they lost before the Elite Eight, they were still eligible to compete for the national championship. So in other words, we would have been taking the conference's champion versus a runner-up to participate in the tournament. And I like that concept. I like that concept. Still give that school an opportunity. Now, if they're in the Elite Eight, they don't need to play for a national championship. They have won it. They have won the Black College National Championship if they are in the Elite Eight of the NC2A. They have proven that they're the best team in Black college basketball. But in case they don't, they get put out in 64, they get put out in 13, or they get put out in 16. They still got an opportunity to participate. And I thought that was cool. I thought that, I said, you know what? I think coaches will go for this. I know if I was a coach, I'd go for it.
Well, the conversation has started up again. I want to see all the creative minds, former coaches and the coaches, marketing people, the whole shebang, get together and let's see if this can become a reality. Coach Pettaway, appreciate the time as always. Back next week. We'll talk some NBA and we'll see where anybody in our audience has their bracket still left. I tore mine up. Goodness.
All right.
You and your family continue to stay safe and blessed.
All right, Charles, you and Carlos, man, y'all be good, man. And we'll see you next week.
All right, Coach. Appreciate it.
All righty, Coach. I don't know if I'll be good, but I guess I'll have to be good. We're going to take a time out. When we come back, we scheduled a visit with Willa Brown here on the Coles Brown Show. Continue the conversation in the chat room. Very interesting conversation going on. We'll be back after this timeout. You're watching the Carlos Brown Show on the Black College Sports Network. Well, I guess we're not going to a break. Charles, it's always with Coach Pettaway. Very entertaining. Also, kind of glancing at some of the comments in the chat room, people are agreeing with Coach Pettaway and I guess enjoying the conversation as far as when we talk about the blueprint for the conference going forward. Interesting that Coach Pettaway talked about it has to come, the schedule philosophy has to come from the lead comes from the SWAC office. And that's in itself is going to be a very interesting. Council presidents, of course, have a lot to say about it. They have the pull. The commissioner works for the council presidents, but I rest assured, I think Dr. McClellan has the proper mindset, leadership to kind of to push the narrative and get something done.
In my opinion, I think Dr. McClellan has probably nudged the ADs, the presidents, and the basketball coaches to lean the way that we've been talking about. I'm not going to say he's demanded, but he's nudged. And I think that's about all he can do.
Mm-hmm.
As a commissioner, yes, you can strongly encourage. Can you mandate it? Probably not. And I can go back to the previous commissioner. He was going to mandate kind of a 9-5-3 formula scheduling model. You got 9 of those big games one year, and year 2, 5, and the next year 3. He had that on the board. It never got off the ground, but it was something he told me about at the time, former Commissioner Sharp. I don't know if the commissioner can demand. He can nudge and strongly encourage, because at the end of the day, I think he knows, being a former AD at Prairie and Texas Southern, that there's only so far he can go with that. If, in fact, that you have to bring in a certain amount of money in guarantees, then that kind of throws the idea out the window a little bit. Yes, the quad one and quad twos, those, you play those games, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to bring in the type of money, because the quad ones might not be the Kentuckys and the North Carolinas. The quad ones might be the Stephen F. Austins and the Central Arkansas, in which you're going to get maybe 40,000 instead of 75. So I think, the money issue is probably the biggest factor. And so would we like to have the best overall seed, the best seed we can get? Sure. But I think it comes down to dollars and finances. And until that attitude changes, and it goes back to the conversation we have about, having more attendance at home games to where you bring in more revenue. And I thought attendance in SWAC games was really good this year. Southern had good attendance. Alcorn had good attendance. But it's not across the board, and the finances at our schools aren't the same from 1 to 12. So until we kind of get on the same page, then I think it's going to be a struggle. In the SEC and these Power 5 conferences, as they say in basketball, you play on a string. These conferences understand the more teams you have in the big dance, the more revenue you get. So when you have the SEC with 8 teams in, when you have the Pac-12 with 6 teams in, that's just more money for the conference, more money for the schools. So until we can get to that point, and we're not there yet, then I think we're going to continue to have what we have: the one bid, the one team. You have the NIT, you have the CBI. But until it changes, the attitude changes, the philosophy changes, I think we're going to continue to have this conversation. Again, for me, I just think it's tough for me, because every year in October, November, December, I'm screaming from the hills like, look, folks, pay attention to what we're doing and not doing in non-conference, because in March, we're going to be frustrated. And you're seeing that yet again. And I know, Carlos, you're probably ready to close book on it, because it's beating a dead horse. I get it. But I think it's up to us, people like Dr. Paville, me and you, Brian Fulford, the Sports Zone, to help inform and educate our fans in terms of what it takes. The commissioner, we got to put it out there at least to say, hey, this is the blueprint. This is what needs to be done. And if we put it out there, then I think we've done our job. And that's all I think we can do as far as this is concerned, because I want to see the SWAC team, just like when Southern beat Georgia Tech. What seed was Southern when they beat Georgia Tech? They were a higher seed than a lot of people thought, and it was ripe for an upset. I would love to see that in the SWAC every year, to get a 14 seed, a 15 seed, a 13 seed. But you can't do it just by your own body of work. It has to be the conference's body of work, 1 through 12. And we're not there. So therefore, you're going to get the one bid. We gotta eliminate the non-D1s. You can't have 5 or 6 conference schools with 1 win, 1-11, 0-13. That can't happen. And then in March, as we're sitting here now, we're kind of frustrated. I'm frustrated because I just would like to see better as far as the seed is concerned. I can't do anything about it, but all we can do is just educate and say, hey, this is what it takes. The commissioners talked about it. So I think if we do that, we've done our part, and we just hope the powers that be at our schools see it, get together at the spring meetings, which is coming up in May, get in a room with the commissioner, get in a room with all 24 of our basketball coaches, men and women, and say, look, this is what needs to be done if we want this higher seed, or if we want more than one team, if we want it at large. If we're interested in that, this is what it takes, because the commissioner's on the committee. He, as far as the men are concerned, he's on the NCAA basketball committee. He knows what it takes. So I think you've got the best resource available, Dr. Charles McClellan, because he's in the room in Indianapolis when these decisions are being made. Who's in, who's out? He knows what it takes. And I think that's the best resource you can have. We don't have to speculate. He's right there in the room. He can tell you what to do and what not to do. So I think it's just
I want action. I want action, and he's a vice president. He's gonna be the president of the committee. So, too much talking. Too much talking going on. Too much.
I would agree. I'm just venting a little bit because coaches, I think, want the best for their program, the best for the conference. I'm a SWAC guy. You're a SWAC guy. You want to see the best. I want to see the best. A lot of us want to see the best. And I just think we're coming up short year in and year out. And this time of the year, in March Madness, we have this conversation every year. And I would just like to just see something different. But it looks like that's not the case. So we just continue to beat a dead horse.
Well, we're going to take a timeout. We're going to visit with Willa Brown coming up next. You're watching the Carlos Brown Show on the Black College Sports Network.
It's like a loop machine. All around town, people trying to get down. It's like a loop machine.
HBCU League Pass. Watch your favorite black colleges. Some of the best players in the land. HBCU League Pass. It's game time. I'm proud and I love my HBCU. HBCU League Pass. Watch your favorite black colleges. Some of the best players in the land. HBCU League Pass. It's game time. I'm proud and I love my HBCU.
Let's get back to getting ticks instead of watching flicks. Before we can safely get out there, we need the facts on COVID-19 vaccines. Visit getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision for yourself and for your crew.
Nope. Nope.
Come on, him?
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
If you think all pads are exactly the same, think again. This is Always Ultra Thins reinvented with the Always Triple Protection System. This pad wicks gushes 90% faster, absorbs even more so you can feel dry, and locks odors in. Rethink your pad for up to 100% leak-free and odor-free comfort with the totally reinvented Always Ultra Thins. This is always like never before.
Welcome back to the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. We won't have Willa Brown, but he will be on next week. Something came up those things happen. But we appreciate Willa Brown 99.9% of the time. When called upon, he comes on the show. I want to put up a graphic for you now in conjunction with Southern University Athletic Department. They're going to have a locker room capital campaign fundraiser. When? April 1st, 2023, 11 a.m., A.W. Mumford Stadium. As you can see on the picture, the fundraiser is you can pre-order for $25 a crawfish dinner with all the fixings.
Oh
You
yeah.
see lemons, corn,
Oh.
potatoes. But guess what? I don't eat crawfish, but I'm going to make my donation. Matter of fact, I'll make a donation for one lucky person. I'll get you, and no, it's not you, Charles, because $25 would not cover your appetite for crawfish, sir. But maybe we can do that. Maybe we can do more. But excuse me, crawfish is a delicacy.
That's a good one, Carlos. That's a good one. I give it to you. I give you thumbs up on that one.
Well, yeah. I'm being honest. I mean,
Yeah,
you
oh
can put down the
yeah,
crawfish. So,
yes.
with that being said, it's a fundraiser, and here's the most serious part: the project that that's the blueprint for the project will be locker room renovations for Southern University, and in a serious note, young student athletes and young people of this age, they're different. They want to see things. And a lot of these student athletes, particularly if you come from Texas, but not only Texas, where their facilities they're used to accommodations that are very nice. That's the best way I can put it. So you've got to always update, renovate. And Southern University Athletic Department and University, this is part of a fundraiser, not the only one, to help uh, present a whole brand new locker room facilities for Southern University football team. And I'm going to reach out to have, I know one of the guys leading the, the fundraising, have him to come on this show. Um, with that being said, also, um, maintenance and maintaining. When you get new facilities, maintenance is important to maintain. Okay. So when you get something new and you get something brand new, what is to keep the longevity? Maintenance, maintain. So uh, these athletes deserve the best accommodations that they can get, and we can help do that with supporting that fundraiser. That's just a start. And you can see pre-order and the foundation, sus.edu, Southern University Football Crawfish Ball. I don't think I called it a crawfish ball, but I should have. But as you can see in Louisiana, again, it's a delicacy.
Oh yes.
Just because I can't enjoy it, but not only in Louisiana, I think throughout the South, the deep South, that is something that you don't pass up. Then good conversation. Then you have the spring game that day as well. So come out and support it. Please do. Coach Dooley and the entire athletic staff and football staff would appreciate it. And speaking of spring football, quarterback position is heating up. Harold Blood doing very well. Talked to someone who talked to the new quarterback coach, Willie Totten, and he is enjoying Baton Rouge and enjoying being a part of the Southern University staff. You got Noah Bolton, and then I got to practice on this last name, Dolan McCrotro. I'm going to get better. That still may be wrong, but we'll call him Dolan M for the rest of the show. Transfer quarterback from the University of Alabama, Birmingham, but Harold Blood impressing Coach Dooley so far. Also, defensively, they've added some athletic linebackers. They talked about um, getting more speed on the defense because, Charles, if you look at it defensively, Southern top 2 in the conference last year. So they just want to add and maintain. That's that word again. Maintain defense. But once again, every year you got to add something. You can't rest on your laurels. They figured that they've got to get more speed on the defense. They narrowed it down uh, to bring in some more linebackers. So, but I know everyone likes to talk about who's going to win the quarterback derby. Right now, according to my source, if they had to play a football game right now, Harold Blood gets the nod. But competition, competition, competition. Spring, after the spring, going into the fall camp. But Coach Dooley, according to his comments, he's comfortable in naming a starter after this coming out of the spring. And I know that philosophy is different. Some will wait, they'll extend the competition to the fall. But such is the case for Coach Dooley and this football program. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it is. I mean, this week of at least here at Alcorn, I don't know about Southern. We had our spring break, which is over with now, so they'll be back at it come
Mhm.
Monday. They didn't have any practice at all during spring break week, and to my surprise, some other schools who have their spring break don't go at it. That was kind of a surprise to me. I know at Jackson State they have their spring break and they didn't go at it. Valley. So I mean, I would think that during spring break, with no students on campus, you're still kind of going at it, but that's not the case. So you're going to kind of
Mhm.
pick it up in full speed here with the spring games coming up. Ours is April the 1st, and so I'm looking forward to seeing what Alcorn has to offer. We just started an 1871 collective, Carlos, that was out there on social media. We got 3 student athletes that are a part of that. Tyler Macon, who was a Mizzou transfer quarterback, Jarvion Howard, and we got a softball player that's also in that collective. So there's a lot going on, Carlos. With NIL being a big recruiting pitch for a lot of these student athletes, with football going on, spring practice, there's just a lot to talk about now that basketball season is over with. I'm anxious to see how these new coaches and new quarterbacks all round out, Carlos. And I was talking with the commissioner about that too. I'm like, the storylines this offseason are more than what we had the previous year. And he admitted, even though Coach Sanders is gone, there's still never a shortage of storylines in the SWAC. So he's looking forward to
No.
it. I'm looking forward to it. You're looking forward to it. We all are.
Yeah, because, I've said it before. This conference has had great things happen to it. They've had great student athletes, no matter what sport. Before Coach Sanders came into the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and you always remember that. You know, the legacy, the history. It's always been there. Grambling State put a lot of people in the pro football, NFL. Not only Grambling, but Grambling has the most, as equal to Notre Dame, better. So you never have to take a back seat to anybody as far as from a historical standpoint. And we wish Coach Sanders the best. He's moved on. And I'm going to move on now. Baseball. Southwestern Athletic Conference. Uh, Grambling State over Southern 8-7 in 12 innings. Southern baseball, wow, on a big time losing streak. Texas Southern over Pine Bluff 9-7. It was Alabama A&M over Jackson State. Alabama A&M, a very improved team. Alabama State over Bethune-Cookman 11-3. So baseball wise, Southern's picked to come out of the West, out of the East. It was it no Bethune-Cookman, was it FAMU? Well, I can't remember. So I'll tell you, getting middle age moments. But Southern is struggling. Southern is struggling. They've had some leads in some games, but when they go to the bullpen, they've had some regular starters out, playing around with some lineups, trying to get ready for a conference season. Conference season is here. Grambling State over Southern 8-7. So Charles, baseball now in the swing of things, conference wise, and we'll see who comes out on top. It's going to be a long season, but it moves quickly, and before you
Yeah.
know it, you're talking about swag baseball tournament. So you got to get off to a good start, and you want to be consistent. And then also, who can overcome a little adversity? Do you want the adversity in the beginning or the end? Because it's coming. It's coming. Those who adjust and get over the adversity will do well.
Yeah, as far as Alcorn is concerned, we got 15 new players, very young. We're going to play a game today and a doubleheader tomorrow because yesterday we had some bad weather. I'm anxious to see how this Braves team. We've struggled clearly in non-conference. We got some tough non-conference games to go. We go to Valley Tuesday. Valley beat us last Tuesday. I think Valley's going to be an improved team in the East. I know Coach Barney. He played at Alcorn. I talked with him when we played up there for basketball. He's got that Valley team going, and of course, you know what happened there with the called third strike against UNO and how that generated a whole bunch of conversation with the umpires.
That
And
was
just so
horrible. Does he
it
does
was
he have a
horrible.
job left? Does
I
he have a job left?
probably not. I mean, because that was so egregious. Those last two balls were just egregiously low and outside. I mean, just not even close.
He looked like he just
But
wanted to go home.
yeah,
So shame on you.
yeah, and what you're seeing, I mean, it's a whole nother topic. But what you're seeing is that officials are giving up the sport. I mean, officials are tired of the berating from the coaches, from players, from fans, and there's a shortage of officials in all sports, these days. So I think that's a whole nother subject for another day. But Valley is much improved. Jackson State lost to Alabama A&M. Jackson was on a 9-game winning streak, and Alabama A&M, they got a good young feisty coach that I know pretty well, and you know well, and I think he's going to have that program going. So I think once SWAC baseball gets underway, which it has, I think you're going to see a lot of intense games. You're going to see a lot of interesting games and a lot of action.
I would agree. I would agree. Well, get ready to wrap up this week's edition of the Coles Brown Show. Want to thank, of course, Charles Edmond, Coach Vann Pettaway. Willa Brown had an unfortunate emergency come up, so we'll visit with him next year. What we talked about on today's show, SWAC HBCUs postseason games come to an end with Coach Pettaway. We talked about a lot of SWAC basketball, some things that the conference has to do. The blueprint is out there. The big question is at the crossroads. That's my way of terming it. At the crossroads, what are you going to do now to move these basketball programs as a conference to make them better, where we can see better progress in the near future? Southern Spring football continues, as some other schools in the conference. The big question is who will come out of the spring as the number one quarterback. That's one of the storylines, not the only one. Congratulations once again to Texas Southern University, the men's 2023 tournament champions. On the women's side, Southern University 2023 women's tournament basketball champions. Got an email once again to briefly talk about it. Still speculation about Coach Woods. Will he return as Southern's basketball coach? Since I've been on the air, got a text message that's saying that something, I'll just term it this way, something may be brewing. Something may be brewing, but thanks to Mr. Williams who sent me the email. Uh, Coach Woods' contract officially is up June 30th, 2023. So, we'll see what happens. Either you're going to have to renew him or you're going to go in another direction. On the women's side, Coach Funchess, second tournament championship in 5 years, safe. His extension ends June 30th, 2024. So, in my opinion, I'm more sure of Coach Funchess getting a continuation a new contract or an extension with Coach Woods, I'm not sure. It's going to be interesting. If we hear something before the next time you see us, I'll let you know. But and also March Madness, the true term, March Madness. It has been maddening. If you have tournament brackets or challenges, you do all that. God bless you, because it's been ripped again, ripped again right off the bat. Charles, closing comments for you.
We have, that's interesting about coaches' contracts. Here at Alcorn,
Mhm.
your coaches' contracts are kind of tied to the end of the season. So for football, coaches' contracts are usually up in December. With basketball, it's usually in March, the end of March, somewhere in there. So it's interesting how how their contracts are handled. Maybe because it's the end of the fiscal year, I don't know, but there's time to
Fiscal
decide.
year. Hmm.
The end of the fiscal year. So it's just, there's time to make a decision, but you don't have a lot of time. I mean, if you're going to make a change, you want to give the new coach opportunity to recruit and all that if you decide to make a change. So I'm anxious to see how this goes. And we talked about it last week. Roman Banks, when he was the coach, winning at a 70% clip. Sean Woods is one at a 60% clip. Is that acceptable for a Southern University? We'll see. I think
I'll take
something will come.
70%. 75. 75% is
75%.
my
Yeah. So my guess
it's my
is, and
line.
I hate that because I like Coach Woods as a person. I think he's a fiery, feisty guy who just wants to win. But it is a results-oriented business. So we'll see the results of all that here shortly.
I think the saying is it's never personal, it's business.
Right.
It's never personal, it's business.
Yeah.
And if it comes to that, you thank him for his time, and you move on. If you decide to keep him, I agree with Willa Brown. You can't just offer a 1-year contract, but then you're right back again where you started. So either you go all in or you go all out. But we shall see. Want to thank Melody, and last but not least, BFF, best friend forever. Happy birthday, March 18th. That's to my best BFF, best friend forever. I guess we put it that way. And everybody out there, enjoy yourself. Have a great weekend, and make sure you tune in next Saturday at 11 a.m. for another edition of the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. And Charles, yep, right on cue. There's the chalk. Alcorn State guy himself. Until next Saturday, as always, peace and God bless.